I never thought I'd be making this video. Standing here in my empty house, holding the printed screenshots that destroyed my marriage. 3 days ago, I exposed my wife's 6-month affair to our entire family at what was supposed to be our anniversary dinner. The look on her face when I projected the timeline of her betrayal on our dining room wall is something I'll never forget. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You're probably wondering how I got here. How did I go from being a trusting husband to a digital detective who uncovered every single lie? Let me take you through it, step by step, message by message. My name is Daniel. 3 weeks ago, I was just a normal guy with what I thought was a normal marriage. Now I'm living alone in an Airbnb, rebuilding my life from scratch. But this isn't a pity story. This is about how I discovered the truth, what I did with it, and why I don't regret a single thing. It all started on April 15th, tax day. Ironic, right? The day the government takes their cut was the same day I started to realize someone was taking what was mine. I was helping my wife Emma with her laptop. Just a simple battery replacement. Nothing suspicious about that. We'd been married for 5 years, together for 8. She was a marketing director. I work in IT security. We had a good life in the suburbs of Boston. Nice house, 2 cars, vacations twice a year. No kids yet, but we were talking about it. That night, while her laptop was open, a notification popped up from Instagram. Jake sent you a message. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place? Just a simple message, but something about it felt off. Emma had mentioned a Jake from work before. New guy in the sales department, transferred from the Chicago office. But the tone of that message, it just didn't sit right. Who's Jake again? I asked, trying to sound casual. Emma snatched the laptop a little too quickly. Just a coworker. We're having a team lunch tomorrow. She smiled, but there was something forced about it. How's the battery replacement going? I finished the job, closed up the laptop, and tried to push that nagging feeling away. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Something just felt wrong. The next day, I called Emma around lunchtime, just to say hi. She didn't pick up. When she got home that evening, I asked how lunch was. Great, she said, not making eye contact. The whole team was there. We went to that new Italian place downtown. I nodded and said nothing. But I'd already checked the company calendar she shared with me. There was no team lunch scheduled. That was the first lie, the first red flag. But you guys aren't here for my suspicions. You want the evidence, right? The cold, hard facts. Well, I'm about to show you how I uncovered 6 months of deception, message by message, photo by photo, location by location. I work in cybersecurity. I know how digital footprints work. I know that nothing is ever truly deleted, that patterns emerge over time, that metadata tells stories people don't even realize they're writing. I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious, controlling husband who invades his wife's privacy. But that first lie, it changed something in me. So I began my investigation, quietly, methodically. I didn't confront Emma right away. I needed more than just a feeling. I needed proof. First, I checked our shared cloud account. Emma probably didn't realize that deleted photos leave traces. I found several photos from locations she'd never mentioned visiting, restaurants I'd never heard of, a cabin by a lake that wasn't on any of our vacation itineraries. The timestamps matched days she'd told me she was working late or having girls' nights out, but this wasn't enough. So I dug deeper. I recovered her deleted browser history using a specialized tool. This isn't something I'm proud of, but I needed to know. There it was. Searches for how to hide messages from husband and secret email accounts. Hotel bookings for dates she was supposedly at conferences. Searches for weekend getaways to places we'd never discussed. The picture was becoming clearer, but I still needed more concrete evidence. That's when I remembered our family sharing plan. Location data. I checked the location history for her account, and there it was, a pattern. Every Thursday afternoon, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., her location showed her at an address in Cambridge. Not her office. Not any place she'd ever mentioned. I drove by one day. It was an apartment building. Upscale. The kind of place a sales executive might live. But the most damning evidence came from our wireless carrier account. Text message logs. I couldn't see the content, but I could see the numbers, dates, times, and frequency. One number appeared over and over, with hundreds of texts at all hours of the day and night. Messages sent when she was lying next to me in bed. Messages sent when she was supposedly in meetings. Messages sent on our anniversary. I reversed the number. It belonged to a Jake Thornton, the same Jake from work. I found his LinkedIn profile. 35, recently transferred from Chicago, divorced sales executive. In his profile picture, he stood in front of a lake, the same lake from the photos I'd found in our cloud storage. But wait, it gets worse. The timeline I was building showed that their communication started exactly 2 weeks after he joined her company, January 15th, 6 months ago. Our wedding anniversary is January 14th. She started texting him the day after our anniversary. Let that sink in. By this point, I'd created a detailed spreadsheet. Dates, times, locations, communications, lies told, excuses given. The pattern was undeniable, but I still hadn't confronted her. I wanted to understand the full scope of the betrayal. That's when I made my biggest discovery. Remember how I work in IT security? Well, our home Wi-Fi keeps logs. Every device, every connection, every website. Emma had been careful with her phone and laptop, but she'd forgotten about our shared iPad. There it was, the iPad connecting to Snapchat, WhatsApp, and other messaging apps at times when I wasn't home. Apps that weren't on the iPad when I used it. She must have been installing them, using them, and then deleting them afterward. I managed to recover fragments of those conversations from the iPad's cache. The messages were explicit. Plans for their meetups, complaints about me, discussions about their future together. One message from Emma to Jake read, "Daniel suspects nothing. He's too absorbed in his computer work to notice anything. Thursday as usual?" Another, "What if we didn't have to hide anymore? I've been thinking about what you said." And the worst one, "Sometimes I wish I'd met you before him. Everything would be so different." The full timeline was now clear. January 15th. First text messages exchanged. January 28th. First, working lunch together. February 14th. Valentine's Day. Emma told me she had to work late. Her location showed her at Jake's apartment for 3 hours. March 5th. First weekend away. She told me it was a girls' trip to Cape Cod. She was with him at a cabin by the lake. April 2nd. Based on their messages, this appears to be when the affair became physical. April 15th. The day I saw the first message and began my investigation. May 20th. They started discussing a future together. June 30th. I completed my investigation. July 2nd, our anniversary dinner, where I exposed everything. But here's where my story takes an unexpected turn. Remember I told you I work in IT security? What I didn't mention is that I also do freelance consulting for divorce attorneys. I know exactly what kind of evidence holds up in court. I know exactly how to document digital betrayal in a way that's airtight. Every screenshot, every location pin, every message log, all collected legally and systematically. Now, I could have confronted Emma privately. I could have had a calm, adult conversation about what I had found. But something inside me had hardened during those weeks of investigation. Every lie she told me while I was building my case, every fake smile, every time she kissed me goodbye before meeting him, It all built up into something I couldn't contain. So I planned my response as carefully as I'd planned my investigation. Our 5th anniversary was coming up. Emma had suggested we host a dinner at our home with both our families. Her parents, my parents, her sister, my brother, and his wife. A celebration of our perfect marriage. I agreed enthusiastically. I told her I had a special presentation prepared, a retrospective of our 5 years together. She loved the idea. The dinner was perfect. Emma was radiant, playing the role of devoted wife flawlessly. If I hadn't seen the evidence with my own eyes, even I might have believed it. After dinner, I set up the projector as everyone gathered in the living room, champagne glasses in hand. Before I start, I said, standing in front of our families, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Family is everything, and truth is the foundation of family. Emma smiled at me from across the room. I didn't smile back. This presentation is called The Timeline of Betrayal, I continued. It's a comprehensive 6-month history of my wife's affair with her coworker Jake. The room went silent. Emma's glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the hardwood floor. Daniel, what are you talking about? She stammered, her face draining of color. I clicked to the first slide. There it was, the message logs, the first text from Jake, the beginning of the end. January 15th, I narrated calmly. The day after our anniversary. The day you first texted Jake Thornton. For the next 20 minutes, I walked our families through everything. The locations, the messages, the photos, the lies. Each piece of evidence meticulously dated and annotated. Her parents stared in shock. My mother began to cry. Emma's sister couldn't look at her. Emma tried to interrupt, to explain, to deny, but the evidence was overwhelming. Slide after slide after slide. When I reached the final slide, a message from just 2 days earlier where she told Jake she was figuring out how to ask for a divorce, I simply turned off the projector. You don't need to figure it out anymore, I said. I've already called a lawyer. The papers will be ready next week. I've sent copies of all this evidence to both our families' emails, as well as to myself and my attorney. I walked to the door, picked up my pre-packed suitcase, and looked back at the chaos in our living room. Emma was sobbing, trying to explain to her horrified parents. My brother stood up and walked over to join me. You can stay with us tonight, he said quietly. And that was it. That was 3 days ago. I've been staying at an Airbnb since then, ignoring the flood of messages from Emma. Her texts evolved from angry denials to desperate apologies to pathetic begging. Classic stages of being caught. But here's what you might not expect. I feel liberated. 6 months of my life were a lie, yes. But now I know the truth, and there's power in that knowledge. I'm not broken. I'm not even that sad anymore. I'm just clear. For the first time in months, I can see everything precisely as it is. So why am I sharing this? Because I want people to know that in the digital age, the truth leaves traces. It leaves timestamps and location pins and cached files and server logs. If you suspect something is wrong in your relationship, trust that feeling. The evidence might be right there, hidden in plain sight. I've received dozens of messages from Emma since that night. The last one came just before I started filming this. It read, "Please, Daniel, can we just talk? I made a terrible mistake. I never meant to hurt you. But here's the thing about digital evidence. It doesn't just show what happened. It shows intent. It shows planning. It shows choices made over and over again. This wasn't a mistake. It was a campaign. Now I bet you're wondering what happened with Jake in all this. Well, that might be the most satisfying part of the story. You see, while I was gathering evidence about the affair, I also discovered something else. Jake had been falsifying his sales reports at work, taking credit for deals he hadn't closed. Emma didn't know I knew this. It was just something I stumbled upon while going through her work emails. The Monday after the anniversary dinner revelation, I sent an anonymous tip with evidence to their company's compliance department. By Tuesday afternoon, Jake had been fired. So not only did he lose his affair partner, but he also lost his job. Actions have consequences. Some of you might think I went too far with the public exposure. Maybe I did, but after months of being lied to, of having my reality distorted, of being made to feel crazy for those moments of suspicion, I needed the truth to be acknowledged by everyone. Emma's sister called me yesterday. She told me Emma is staying with their parents, that she's a mess. She asked me if there's any chance of reconciliation. The data doesn't support that outcome, I told her, and hung up. I know this all sounds cold, clinical even, but when you've seen your marriage dissected in rows and columns of a spreadsheet, when you've tagged and categorized every lie, it changes you. I'm not saying it's healthy, I'm just saying it's real. So what happens next? The divorce will be finalized soon. Massachusetts is an equitable distribution state, and my evidence of her infidelity will be considered by the court. I'll keep the house. She'll keep her car. We'll divide the rest. Clean, logical, data-driven, just like my investigation. I've already had the locks changed. I've already separated our finances. I've already begun rebuilding. And strangely, I feel stronger than I've ever been. This isn't the ending I wanted for my marriage, but it's the beginning I needed for the rest of my life. A beginning built on truth, not comfort. On reality, not illusion. For those of you going through something similar, here's my advice. Trust your instincts, gather your evidence, and protect yourself. The truth might hurt, but living in a lie hurts more, day after day after day. And for those of you who might be considering betraying someone's trust, remember this. In our connected world, the digital breadcrumbs you leave behind tell a story you might not want told. Every message, every location check-in, every search query, they all become part of your permanent record. Since posting a teaser of this story, I've received thousands of messages asking for advice on digital investigation techniques. I can't help everyone individually, but here are the basics. 1. Check shared cloud accounts for deleted photos that might still be in recently deleted folders. 2. Review location history if you have family sharing enabled. 3. Look at text message logs through your carrier account. 4. Examine Wi-Fi connection logs on your home router. 5. Review email headers for location information. 6. Check app download history on shared devices. 7. Look for pattern changes, new passwords, new screen habits, new routines. But remember, once you start looking, you can't unsee what you find. Be prepared for the truth, whatever it might be. Oh, and there's one final twist to this story. Something I discovered just yesterday that I haven't told anyone yet. Remember those searches Emma did for how to hide messages from husband and secret email accounts? Well, it turns out she created a secret email account, but she used our shared tablet to do it, and she forgot to log out. Classic mistake. Yesterday I accessed that account and found something I wasn't expecting. Emails between Emma and a real estate agent. She wasn't just having an affair. She and Jake were planning to buy a house together. In Denver, 2,000 miles away from Boston. The most recent email was dated just 3 days before our anniversary dinner. They were planning to close on the house next month. She wasn't just going to divorce me. She was going to disappear with him to a new life across the country. When I found those emails, I felt a strange sense of validation. All those hours spent investigating, documenting, building my case, they were justified. This wasn't just an affair. This was a complete betrayal on every level. I sent those emails to my lawyer this morning. More evidence for the divorce proceedings. It's been exactly 72 hours since I exposed the affair. In that time, I've lost a wife, but found myself. I've ended one chapter, but begun writing a new one. And most importantly, I've replaced lies with truth. The digital trail doesn't lie, even when people do. Remember that. So what's next for me? I'm taking some time off work, traveling, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, building a new life based on authenticity. Emma's last text came through just as I was setting up to film this. It said, "I never meant for it to go this far. I'm so sorry. Please call me." I didn't respond. The data speaks for itself. For those of you who might be in the same situation I was in, suspecting but not knowing, feeling crazy for doubting someone you love, trust your instincts. The truth leaves traces. You just need to know where to look. Thank you for listening to my story. If it helps even one person find their way out of a relationship built on lies, then sharing all this will have been worth it. This is Daniel, signing off. Remember, in the digital age, the truth is always there, hidden in the metadata. Wait, I just realized I never told you the most shocking part of all this. The thing that still keeps me up at night. 2 months ago, Emma and I were trying for a baby. We'd been talking about starting a family for years, and we finally decided it was time. She stopped taking her birth control. We tracked her ovulation cycles. We were excited about the future we were building together. But in the emails I found, there was a conversation between Emma and Jake from 3 months ago. She was telling him how much she wanted to have his baby, how they would make beautiful children together. She was talking about our family plans, but with him in my place. And then, just last week, the day before our anniversary dinner, there was another email. Emma telling Jake she had missed her period, that she might be pregnant, that they needed to speed up their timeline. I don't know if she's actually pregnant. I don't know whose baby it would be if she is. But the thought that she might have been trying to get pregnant by another man while still sleeping with me, that's a level of betrayal I'm still trying to process. I've blocked her number now. Any further communication will go through our lawyers. Some bridges can't be rebuilt once they've been burned. Some betrayals cut too deep for forgiveness. The strangest thing about all this? Despite everything, there are moments when I miss her. 5 years of marriage, 8 years together. That doesn't just disappear overnight. Sometimes I wake up reaching for her side of the bed. Sometimes I catch myself about to text her about something funny that happened at work. But then I remember the spreadsheet, the locations, the messages, the timestamps. The evidence doesn't lie, even when my heart tries to. So that's my story, the complete digital timeline of how my marriage ended, month by month, message by message, lie by lie. If you're watching this and something feels wrong in your relationship, don't ignore that feeling. Don't let someone else's lies become your reality. The truth might hurt, but living in a lie hurts more in the long run. And if you're watching this and thinking about betraying someone's trust, remember that in our digital world, the truth always finds its way to the surface. Every message leaves a trace. Every location gets logged. Every lie creates a loose thread that, when pulled, can unravel everything. I'm going to rebuild my life now, one true moment at a time. Thanks for listening. Actually, there's one more thing I need to tell you before I go. Yesterday, I received a letter, a physical paper letter in my mailbox, from Jake. It read, "I know you hate me, and you have every right to, but there's something you should know. Emma was playing us both. She told me you were abusive, that you monitored her phone, that you had threatened her if she ever tried to leave. She showed me fake text messages as proof. I believed her because I wanted to. I was the knight saving the damsel. Except the damsel was the villain all along. I've since found out she's done this before, with her ex before you. It's a pattern. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just thought you deserved to know the full truth. I've learned my lesson. I hope someday you can heal from this too." I sat with that letter for hours, trying to process it. Was it true? Was Emma not just a cheater but a manipulator of this magnitude? Had she been crafting a narrative to Jake just as she'd been crafting one to me? I decided to do one final investigation. I reached out to her ex-boyfriend from before we met. We'd never spoken before. It took some social media searching to find him. But eventually, I got his number. When I called and introduced myself as Emma's soon-to-be ex-husband, there was a long pause on the line. "Let me guess," he finally said. "She cheated, and when you caught her, you discovered she'd been painting you as the villain to whoever she was cheating with." My blood ran cold. "How did you know?" "Because she did the exact same thing to me, and from what I heard, to the guy before me too." We talked for over an hour. The patterns were identical. The secret accounts, the elaborate lies, the victim narrative, even the pregnancy scare. "She's not pregnant," he told me. "She pulls that when she's about to get caught. It's her emergency brake." After we hung up, I sat in my Airbnb kitchenette and laughed until I cried. All this time I thought I was special, uniquely betrayed, uniquely devastated. But I was just another chapter in Emma's story. Another Mark who stayed in the dark until the evidence became too overwhelming to ignore. So that's the final piece of my digital timeline. The revelation that this wasn't just about me, or about Jake, or even about our marriage. It was about a pattern bigger than all of us. I'm filing a restraining order tomorrow, based on Jake's letter and my conversation with her ex. Not because I'm afraid of her physically, but because I'm afraid of what other narratives she might create about me. The digital breadcrumbs don't just expose affairs. Sometimes they reveal something much darker. A person who treats relationships as games to be played, people as pieces to be moved, and truth as just another resource to be manipulated. Check your digital footprint. Check your instincts. And most importantly, check the stories you're being told against the evidence that exists in the world. This really is goodbye now. Thank you for listening to my story, my investigation, my truth. May your own relationships be built on something more solid than shifting sands of deception.